The opening scene features a mercenary, Jim Powell, who is imprisoned in Playa Negra prison, sub-Saharan Africa. One day, he is released from the prison as a corporation wants to hire him for a mission. He is to accompany a scientist named Dr. Lila Healy to a former Soviet lab, which is now fortified by a militia. It turns out that a scientist, Dr. Irvine, has been carrying out a secret research there in the underground bunker of the fortress. Since that research has reached a very advanced stage, Jim is assigned to infiltrate the lab and retrieve all the valuable assets before Dr. Irvine disappears. For this mission, Jim is provided with his old team, including soldiers Steinman, Mason, and Corey, and engineers Harris and Williams. Jim is not happy to learn that a corporate security man, Spencer, will be joining them, but he can't refuse as Dr. Lila is in charge of the operation. Following this, the mercenaries set off for their mission, making their way through a forest. Jim urges the team members to be extra cautious as he speculates that the pathway is surrounded by landmines. On their way, they hear the sound of a motorcycle. Sensing the imminent threat, Jim orders everyone to clear the path and take cover in the minefield. Moments later, a perimeter patrol officer shows up and looks around the area before continuing on her way. After a while of walking, the mercenary group arrives at the lab building and discovers that the militia have imprisoned several civilians. According to Steinman, the militia leader, El Dictator, douses the prisoners in oil and sets them alight for his fun. Harris and Williams attempt to infiltrate the camp, while the rest of the team members take a sniper position at a distance. As Harris and Williams arrive at the gate, they are stopped by the camp guards. Williams then talks to them in Russian, claiming themselves to be technicians. However, his Russian accent does not seem to be convincing to the guards, so Harris decides to take matters into his own hands. He then pretends to be drunk and improvises an anti-Russian tirade in Georgian. As the other mercenaries grow tense, the leader of the camp responds well and allows the two of them to enter. Huh, alcoholism is hilarious. Come on in. Once inside, Williams and Harris take control of the base's security system, after which they remotely guide the rest of the team to the underground bunker. As the team sneaks inside the fortress, they come across a room where a half-naked woman is bound to the ceiling with tape over her mouth. At this point, the team faces a dilemma as they are unable to decide whether they should rescue her or abandon her. Jim asserts that no matter what they do, the militia will find out about the intrusion. In the midst of their deliberation, they hear the sound of approaching footsteps, so they instantly turn off the room's lights and take their positions to attack. As soon as the guard enters, the team grabs him and begins strangling him. In a desperate bid to fight back, the guard opens fire, but the mercenaries manage to kill him. Following this, they turn on the lights, only to discover that one of the bullets has penetrated the captured woman, resulting in her demise. Now, the group is worried that the guards might suspect the infiltration. Shortly after, Spencer comes up with an idea to evade the suspicion. He takes off the dead guard's pants and then unties the captured woman, staging the scene to resemble an assault. After this incident, the mercenary group heads downstairs to the underground lab. Meanwhile, in the control room, Williams and Harris are approached by the same patrol officer from earlier. She asks what they are doing, to which Williams pretends that they are repairing the monitor cables. She is suspicious by the sudden arrival of technicians, but she does not confront them yet. On the other hand, the rest of the mercenary group heads deeper into the underground bunker with flashlights and guns in their hands. At one point, Steinman feels that someone is tailing them, but she doesn't find any immediate threat. However, Williams and Harris, who are monitoring their comrades, notice someone on the surveillance feed. They attempt to alert the group regarding the same, but they are unable to contact them due to poor radio signals in the underground. Thinking of an alternative, Harris resorts to heading to the underground bunker to alert the group in person. A short while later, Corey, who is leading the rear, is surprised by a silent attacker who stabs him with a syringe before disappearing into the dark. In a state of panic, Corey opens fire, but there's no one around. Alerted by his gunfire, the group returns back to Corey, who then tells them about the presence of somebody else. However, he doesn't disclose that he had been stabbed with the syringe. Jim orders them to ignore the attacker and keep moving on their way cautiously, because they just don't have enough time to investigate. Not long after, Corey starts feeling very uneasy due to the harmful content of the syringe. He soon develops fever and boils over his body, which eventually results in him falling behind, unnoticed by the others. As the group navigates through a series of dark tunnels, they're suddenly ambushed by some masked assailants who try to stab them with syringes just like they did to Corey. Amidst the scuffle, Harris shows up and starts gunning down the assailants, one after another. Unfortunately, he is shot in the stomach by the last remaining assailant before his fellow mercenaries, neutralize the threat. After some time, they finally arrive at the lab, where they are greeted by a grim sight: several corpses lying down on the floor. Moreover, they uncover a trap, a laser transmitter, set to alert guards upon breach. After a while of careful inspection of the area, they tend to the wound of Harris and leave him to rest on the bed, while the remaining group members embark in search of Dr. Irvine. They soon find Irvine in a deeper area of the lab, experimenting on a young girl. In a surprising turn of events, Dr. Irvine greets Lila, revealing the latter to be her former assistant. Astonished, Jim asks about the girl's identity, to which the doctor tells him that she is one of the specimens named Allie. At this point, it's revealed that Lila's major objective of this mission is to take away two specimens, Allie and Gota. These revelations infuriate Jim, who then confronts Lila regarding the lack of information provided to him. He blames her for what happened to Harris and Corey, and he further demands that they leave right away. Regardless, Lila refuses to do so, claiming that specimen Allie is pregnant, and moving her in such a state can be fatal. Following this, Jim threatens Dr. Irvine to explain everything that is happening in the lab. In response, the doctor begins to unveil all of the secrets left by the Soviet scientists in the past. At first, she shows them a 2.4-billion-year-old meteorite, which she claims to have been buried in permafrost for 70 million years. She says that the rock contains several organic materials, such as cells, DNA, and genetics. When the Soviet scientists found it, they needed world experts to extract those contents, which is when they approached Dr. Irvine. They then lured her with promises of completely unfettered research, free of any ethical or legal restraints. She created two hybrid creatures by combining human DNA with the meteorite's contents. Furthermore, Dr. Irvine leads them to a special facility where she has kept Gota, a male hybrid with horrible-looking eyes. According to the doctor, these hybrids are just 5 years old, but they have already reached sexual maturity, and she has bred them. The offspring of the pregnant girl will be a second-generation subjects who will be more alien than Gota and Allie. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted when Allie experiences labor pain. Sensing the urgency of the situation, Dr. Irvine prepares for the delivery. Despite her efforts to ease Allie's pain with anesthesia and painkillers, none prove effective on the hybrid. After multiple failed attempts, the doctor concludes that Allie won't survive much longer and proceeds to secure the offspring. Irvine's callousness towards the girl's suffering makes Steinman very uneasy. Unable to see her dying in agony, she guns down Allie, freeing her from the painful death. Upon witnessing this, Dr. Irvine asserts how Steinman has caused a loss of valuable assets. However, the latter is still so upset that she vents her anger on the doctor. Before the situation escalates, Jim takes Steinman away from the scene, suggesting that she take some time alone to calm her nerves. It was just a 5-year-old given birth to an alien. It's not that big a deal. In the aftermath, Lila orders Jim to kill Dr. Irvine because she and her work have now become useless. Jim strictly denies, asserting that he is not an assassin. He then instructs Mason to prepare to leave, but the latter attacks him instead. Here, it's revealed that Harris and Mason have already struck a bargain with Lila, who has offered them a fortune after the mission. On the other hand, Steinman goes to Gota's chamber to inform him that his partner is no more. However, she realizes too late that the hybrid is hostile and has hidden a weapon. He suddenly attacks her and tosses her to the floor, causing her to fracture her limbs. He then walks out to the operation theater, interrupting the commotion among the mercenaries. In an unexpected turn of events, he uses his advanced weapon to blow off Irvine's head before fleeing the scene. After this event, Jim and Mason reconcile as they now have no further conflicts on whether to kill Irvine or not. They then go in search of Steinman, only to find her in a wrecked state. With a common mission to neutralize the threats, Jim, Mason, and Spencer head in search of Gota, while Lila decides to look after Steinman. Minutes after they depart, Lila reveals her evil intentions by administering the injured Steinman with a fatal drug. Following this, she goes to kill Harris in the medical facility. As she prepares the same fatal drug, he reveals an unpinned grenade in his hand that blows before she can react. That's what she said. The sound of the explosion reaches the trio's ears, so Mason decides to inspect the matter. As he returns back to the medical facility, he is greeted greeted by a grim sight: unmoving bodies of Harris and Lila. Concerned for Steinman, he rushes to her and finds her dead as well. Mason then goes back to his remaining group members and reports these tragic incidents. Hearing this, Spencer suggests that since the mission has been a complete failure, they should now simply leave together without worrying about any other objectives. Spencer then leads them into an elevator, which he claims to be a secret escape route for Lila. While they head upwards, Spencer goes on a rant, expressing his disappointment for not getting paid. Shortly after, the trio are about to exit the elevator when they are ambushed by a mutated Corey, who instantly kills Spencer. How's that for payment? He then attacks Mason, but Jim manages to shoot him to death. After this, Jim and Mason exit the tunnels and reach the fortress gate, only to find the militia guards engaged in a fierce gunfight with Gota. The two mercenaries eventually reunite with Williams, who appears to have been assaulted brutally by the militia. The trio then take cover in a corner and watch Gota, who's on a killing spree, taking down all the militia members one after another. In a desperate bid to neutralize the threat, Mason offers to sacrifice himself to give Jim the chance to aim his target on Gota. As he walks forward, Lila, who is revealed to have survived the blast, appears from behind and shoots Jim before he can aim at Gota. In a quick retaliation, Williams grabs a shotgun and fires back, killing her on the spot. But by this time, the hybrid splits Mason in two with a machete. Despite the injury, Jim approaches the hybrid, pointing the gun towards him. As he nears, Gota asks him to pull the trigger, but the latter hesitates. As a result, the hybrid climbs up a wall and escapes the scene. In the final scene, Gota is seen walking amidst the crowd in the town, disguising himself as a normal human being. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like.